Hey YouTube, it's Seth here, and today I'll be talking about the most recent update to AdventureQuest, which has been the Guardian Tar revamp. Now, they've basically overhauled all of the Guardian weapons as well as the the arena. It's got about 8 levels, I guess now, similar as to before, and in each of them you've got to battle about 6 monsters. And what I'm doing right now is the final quest, which is essentially the longest and potentially the hardest quest in Adventure Quest. What you have to do is you have to battle 8 monsters, 8 boss monsters. Queen Rachel, King Raymond, Kronos, the ancient four-eyed freak, Sacreon, the Huntress, Wolfpack, and finally King Frost. Now, each of these give 1 million gold, so I'd say it's a fair deal. And as a reward for beating these quests, you get titles, and the final quest unlocks the Undefeatablade. But all monsters are about 150, so don't even try attempting it until you're at least level 130, I guess, 130, 135, and you should be safe then. Now, speaking of the monsters, the first two are quite straightforward actually. They just attack using a single element. As a matter of fact, the first three. That's light, darkness, and energy. Now, they don't have any other effects. The first two don't have it anyway. And you can see some of the basics effects that they have. I've included that all in the video on the screen. King Raymond and Rachel have about 34,000 HP, so whittling it down to zero takes a fair bit of time, but it's really not that difficult, especially if you've got an offensive armor or you have destruction burst, which can essentially deal a lot of damage per cast. And aside from that, there's nothing else. You need to get your resistance to about 5%, and you'll essentially be taking about 60 to 50 points of damage per hit. Coming to Kronos, he's got a paralyzing attack until his mana runs out, so he can leave you stun locked for about 4 turns. But beyond that, it's just regular energy attacks, and about once in 6 or 7 turns, he fires off a breath attack, which deals a lot more damage. Now, taking a break away from this quest and coming to the other updates, you'll now find that the Guardian weapons now do not shift their elements, and they've got an art touch up as well. So the Guardian blade especially looks amazing, and now it just follows the element that you've chosen your no drops as. So if it's water, it will only deal water damage, which is quite good. It puts it up somewhere near the Blade of Ore, except it doesn't have the Power Word Die or Ultra Guardian Dragon, but that's all fine. And aside from that, there's been an update to Sparky the Dragon, and as well as we will potentially be getting the Nightmare Rider revamp, as well as an update to the Jousting quest. Um, Now, coming back to the battle, I'm facing off against Kronos, and as you can see, the best way to deal with him is to use armor skills. Now, Wheel, Moglor, Tortoise, Desert Conqueror, they've got these massively overpowered spells, armor spells, and a decent elemental compensation. And using Celerity, you can essentially spam it, and you can beat him within a few turns if you have the SP stored up. Now, coming to the four-eyed freak, he's one of the most straightforward monsters in this. He's got a void attack, and he attacks from water, light, fire, and earth. Now, if you're a mage, I'd recommend mage or hybrid, as a matter of fact. I'd recommend using Destruction Burst to annihilate most of his HP in the first 3 to 4 turns, beyond which you can just use an offensive armor to chipping the rest away. Now, if you're a ranger or a warrior, I'd recommend using armor skills because you cannot take damage from 4 elements for long because there is no armor that protects decently against all of them, except for probably that's the Communicant Zeal from the Golden Set quest, and the Lies Druid from the Celtic Set quest. Aside from that, he's got a harm skill which deals a fair amount of damage, but it's really nothing that should worry you, and you can always use potions in case you find yourself in a tough spot. Now, moving on to the next monster, who is, as a matter of fact, quite tricky. The Sacreon, he's got a particular attack pattern, which, if you don't pay attention to, really gets you in trouble. So, he uses his mana to create a psionic link, which is basically a very weak energy burn. The duration lasts on how many hits connect, so it can range from 1 to 4 or 0 in case none of the hits connect. Now, when the status remains active when it's greater than 0, he will use a water attack, which is quite strong. Now, in case you're caught out, it's almost guaranteed that you will lose because I got hit once on another character for about 3,000 points of damage, and it was really hard coming back from it, but I was more prepared on my mage. As you can see, that doesn't happen. Aside from that, if you play the pattern correctly, there's nothing this monster will trouble you by any chances, unless you have low endurance, like you're an Annihilator build, in which case you might want to use potions every now and then to keep your HP at a decent level. It doesn't have any luck, so lucky strikes are out of the question, which is actually a good thing. And using armor skills such as Ultimon's Shadow Storm or the Dark Bolt from Anti-Guardian or anything of that sort should help you out. Even Destruction Burst, considering the amount of damage it deals. So it's a pretty easy monster to beat if you follow the pattern, but if you don't, you will get hit a lot, and it's really, really painful if you lose coming all the way this far, because this is already the 4th monster, or 5th monster, I guess, yeah. And the previous monsters are pretty massive tanks. So I'd recommend you play it safe, keep switching. It doesn't take long, and it's really worth the effort, to be honest. Now, coming back to the other updates, we will be getting a jousting quest, and for that we get updated rider armors. So there is I'm not sure which is the first one, but there's also the Nightmare Rider. You can check it out on AQ's Twitter page. Yes, they have it. It's AQ Team, basically. That's what it's called. Now, coming to the next monster, it's called the Huntress. Now, she dodges a lot. She's possibly the hardest monster to hit in the game, aside from the sneak, if you're not prepared. So, get your best wind armor with a fair amount of hits. Using Horde's Eyes will be torture for you, essentially. Because I almost rage quit at one point. Yeah, right about now, because it dodged every single attack I did. But you can always use Fujin Shield. It has a dex drive, which is which enhances your dexterity, and therefore increases your chance to hit a monster. So that's one way, and I'm using the local armor in this, which is actually not a wind armor. As a matter of fact, it's energy. But funny thing, I forgot to bring a wind armor in this case, so I had to make the best of my options. But I guess it worked out, considering it has a lot of attacks with multiple hits. And the control attack is especially good because you get a free turn, and that gives you a chance to hit it more, and you take less damage. Now, its special attack is a Void. It deals about 5 to 600 damage. It's constant because your Void resistance doesn't change. It's set at 200. But she takes a lot of SP to charge up for that attack, so I wouldn't actually be too scared for it. And aside from the dodging, she's actually the easiest monster in this game. I mean, in this quest, that is. Now, coming to the next monster, which most of you might find difficult because of the potentially opposite elements, as well as the fact that you can get stun locked a lot. Wolfpack and the small ones deal light damage a lot, they're glass cannons, while the big one is a tank and he deals earth damage. So use a light misc item to halve the damage you take from light, and use a proper earth setup. That means an earth armor and shield, and that should get you through. Using armor skills is recommended. If you can use something like paralysis from a pet or guest, that should work in your favor, because you have to make sure the big guy doesn't attack you as often, because a 48% chance of not acting is quite substantial. But aside from that, and yes, take care of the small ones first, because they deal more damage compared to the big one. Um, if you take out the first two, then it gets relatively easier, and you can just focus on the earth element, which should see you take very little damage, as a matter of fact. Um, yeah, and so after this is the final monster, which is the King Frost. Now, looking at its elemental resist, you can make out that it's got 200% to fire, but don't be fooled. He will heal damage instead of taking it, and he will power up, as that means he'll deal more damage basically. So use light or water or anything, just don't use fire, because trust me, people have tried it and it's been bad basically. And that being said, he just uses ice, as a matter of fact. He uses ice element to attack, and using the Horror Show set or Hand of Terrasul or Frostwell Mercenary is just enough to beat him. You can use maybe spells or armor skills to increase the rate at which you deal with him. And aside from some potentially unlucky moments I had getting an insane amount of lucky strikes, he got lucky strikes. He's a relatively simple mob. He doesn't do as much if you've come prepared for him. And yeah, that's the last monster in this quest. Now, after this, you come to the Undefeatablade. It's a 20% proc rate, in case you keep track of those, and it switches between melee magic and ice and energy. So it's really good if you need the compression. And yeah, that's it. And of course, you get the title Undefeatable, which is quite cool, as a matter of fact. So I hope this video helped you in any way to um, beat this quest, and yeah, be sure to comment in the comment section below um, what was your experience and everything. And yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.